Hey up, I'm Steven Hicken Jr and today we are going rogue. So big thanks to Josh Beddis for sending me these questions for today's interview. So I think we're going to do it one at a time because I'm not very good at talking in front of cameras, so we're going to do this little intro and then we're going to do each question one at a time. So question number one is, how did you discover pedal steel? So I mean, I didn't really discover it. You know, it's been in my family for, since the 70s, because my dad used to play with the family band. They've been in the family band and the country music scene for, since I can remember, since everybody can remember really. My granddad was a massive country music fan, and then his offspring created a family band. So my dad became the steel player out of them, and they were called Shiloh Country in the 70s, had all sorts of names that went up to the 80s, when they were called New Shiloh because they split up for a while and then got back together. And then during the 90s, when they really hit the peak, in mainstream kind of British country, they were called Blue Ridge through to the early 90s. So that's how I really discovered pedal steel. My dad was a brilliant lap steel player in the 70s, and then he joined the pedal steel kind of group in the 80s when he started off on a Goya pedal steel first, and then he got his Showbud in 1981, which he's still with him today, which I've had the pleasure of playing a couple of times. So that's how I discovered pedal steel. It's not something I've discovered, I was born into it, it's in my blood. Right, so question number two is, who is your biggest influence? So, I mean, I've already basically answered that anyway with the previous one, but there's so many, massive players in Nashville: Paul Franklin, Lloyd Green, Tommy White, and some unfortunately who've passed away like John Huey, Tom Brumley, all of them. Absolutely amazing players that I've took inspiration from. Thousands of players around the world have been, inspired by. But my biggest influence is my dad, because, without him, I wouldn't be into country music. I'd probably be going to a Seacroft bassline rave, instead of a pub listening to country music. And my uncles as well, to that extent. But if my dad had picked a different instrument, lead guitar, piano, violin, anything, I probably wouldn't be playing pedal steel. So my dad was a great player in his own right anyway. He had so much feel in his playing, and growing up watching him, it was absolutely amazing. And the only thing I regret is that I was a bit too young when I was growing up. I didn't really get to see him properly as I am now. I was only a good 5, maybe 7, 8 year old when I was watching him when he was at his peak. So, that my dad is my biggest influence, as probably everybody. It's not everybody goes on about rose tinted glasses, but your parents most of the time are always your influence. So that's my biggest influence. So question number three is, what is your favourite steel part in a song? And that has to be Together Again, the Tom Brumley way with Buck Owens, because I really like the Vince Gill one, which is more recent. Paul Franklin played on it, and it's technically superb, but for me I prefer the original, which was the simple way of playing it, the beautiful way, the really beautiful way of playing it. Because Paul Franklin played it great, and it is beautiful when you listen to it. He does a bar slant on it that, it's like a trap door opening, it's insane. But the original Tom Brumley way is probably the steel guitar solo that got me into the instrument. When I was 14 years old, I'd wanted to play steel for a while, and I kind of started playing lap steel when I was 10, 11, but I didn't really like it because I always wanted to play pedal steel, and I kind of threw it in cupboard for a while. But when I was 14, that solo I watched Buck Owens Together Again. I didn't know who Buck Owens was, because all the country I'd heard were on CDs. It was brilliant. I'd heard Alan Jackson and everything, but Buck Owens, when I was 13, 14, I just heard that solo, and Tom Brumley, that really hit me in the heart. That was a proper solo, and it was just so simple but beautiful, and that was the key to it. And that was the solo that made me say, right, Dad, my brother Wayne's got a Carter starter that's sat in an airing cupboard that's doing nothing. Can you go get me that guitar? So 3 months after that solo, after chipping away at everybody, I got my first pedal steel. So that's really the solo. As much as I was talking about how my dad got me into the instrument, that was the solo that really nailed it for me. Get me, right, get me a pedal steel, please. I really want to play. I want to play that solo. And I think within the first, my dad were livid because he'd been upstairs in teaching me how to play chords and stuff. And what did I do? Straight away, I went on to trying to go in on YouTube how to play Together Again. So, and he came upstairs and says, "You're not supposed to play songs straight away. You got to learn how to play steel." So that's a song. I mean, there's a kid in the Netherlands called Matthew Jutt who's a great young steel player, and I played that song with him, and that solo for me is probably, I wouldn't like to say the pinnacle because steel is constantly evolving and the benchmark always changes, but for me that's one of the best steel solos and one of the best players as well of all time. So that's my favourite solo, Together Again, Buck Owens, Tom Brumley. Question number 4. If you could play in any artist's band, who would it be? Now, I keep speaking about my family, so if it was any normal band that's away from my family, because that was a bit of a dream for me to play with my uncles and my dad, which I have done. I've played alongside them when I was a little kid, watching them grow up, and then 15 years later I've played with them on a stage. That was a small dream come true anyway. But if you're going to talk about maybe Nashville acts, I'd probably say somebody like Alan Jackson, because Alan Jackson is an artist that I used to listen to when I was in my mid-teens, first learning about people like Paul Franklin, who I didn't know who he was then. I was just getting into steel, and Paul Franklin were new to me. And when I was listening to the Alan Jackson stuff from the 90s, some of that is brilliant. Some of the songs like, Midnight in Montgomery, that's a song I didn't... When I was younger, when I was in my teens, Midnight in Montgomery wasn't a song I really liked, because it wasn't like what I'd heard. Because it was in a minor key, it was strange, it was weird, but as I've grown older, that song is brilliant, and the steel on it in the minor key is amazing. And somebody like Alan Jackson, he's been there and done it through the 90s revolution, when they were kind of coming off the back of the 80s country pop phase, and real country started coming back in the 90s, and there was this new breed of new traditional country. So he's a person that if I could get a chance to play with, you've got to do it. Not only that, he's the kind of guy that goes to the dream gigs like the Grand Ole Opry and stuff like that. I think he still plays the Opry, but he has done in the past, I know. He's that kind of guy who's massive and massively respectable as well. So if I could play with anybody, it'd probably be Alan Jackson right now that's living. It's all, if we go back to acts that have passed away, there's thousands you could play with. Buck Owens, George Jones, everybody. But for living acts, it'll probably be Alan Jackson. So Josh Bedis always likes to throw an oddball question in that's got nothing to do with country music. So number 5 is, would you rather be able to fly but be scared of heights, or breathe, well, he spelt that wrong, it says breath underwater, breathe underwater but get seasick? So I think, I still do, I suffer with a bit of vertigo. If I go up some really high stairs at top of an hotel and you look down, but I used to be in air cadets when I was younger, and I've flown a plane. So out of those two scenarios, I have got a bit of vertigo, not from small heights, but if you're really high up, I've got a bit of vertigo, and I've flown a plane. So there you go. There's your answer. I'd rather be able to fly and have a bit of vertigo than be seasick, and I don't even know the relevance of that question. Be seasick but be able to breathe underwater. How does that make sense? Josh, what are you doing to me? So thanks very much for listening to my voice and this interview. And to Josh Bedis for asking me the question. So I hope we're going to be returning to playing on stage soon, because I'm really getting withdrawal symptoms not playing on stage. And hopefully, the next couple of weeks I might actually have a gig myself. As for Josh Bedis, you need to get that song out. He knows what I mean. You need to get that song out. So stay safe, obviously, but hopefully we can get back to normality soon. And here's a lick for you.